Okay, so this takes us to section 6.4, video, part 2. And so what we're going to be talking about here is how do we divide by using synthetic division. Now let me say a couple of things that I said in the last video. First, when you divide by synthetic division, your divisor, what's in the bottom, has to be a single letter plus or minus a number. So no letter in front of this X, no power right here on the ones we're going to be doing. So in synthetic division, that's what the denominator has to look like. Now it doesn't matter what the top looks like, but that's what the denominator has to look like. Okay, now let me quickly remind you of a couple of other things. Remember this right here is called the divisor. You don't have to write this down. Do write the problem down. So pause the video right quick and write the problem down. The instructions here, divide by synthetic division, and write that problem down now. So pause the video. Okay, now let me pick back up where I was left off. So don't write this down. This right here is the divisor. This up here is called the dividend. That's the dividend. I know it's like chicken scratch, but anyway, so your answer over here is going to be your quotient. That's your quotient over here. Now, let me remind you of one other thing. Remember, we said when you check it, your divisor times your quotient, and then plus your remainder if you have a remainder. We didn't mention that earlier because the remainder was 0. But plus your remainder equals to your dividend. Your divisor times your quotient plus your remainder if you have one is your dividend. Now, I'm not going to require that you check these, but we will check our first one in just a minute. All right, don't write this down yet. So in other words, here's what we're looking for. You set up synthetic division. Remember, your dividend goes under here. So your divisor goes out here. Your divisor goes out here. Your dividend goes up here. And so your answer is going to be your quotient. This is what we're looking for right there. That quotient. Now, in a minute, when we get this answer, I'm going to take this quotient and I'm going to multiply it times that divisor to show you that you get that dividend. I'll show you that when we go to work it. Now, how do we literally divide this? Well, this is where the word synthetic division comes from. Now, the way synthetic division works, it's going to look very different than this right here. But it's just a short way of doing this problem. Now, there is a way in mathematics to divide it if you leave it like this. We call this in mathematics, we call dividing by long division. So long division would work this problem and give us the right answer. But we don't teach that process in here. But I am going to teach you how to divide this by synthetic division. Now, why do I teach the synthetic on this problem instead of the long division? Because the synthetic division is a whole lot quicker. And it gives you the exact same answer. So that's why we do synthetic division instead of long division. Now, long division will work other problems that synthetic division doesn't. Like if this was 5x plus 3, synthetic division, or 5x squared minus 3. A synthetic division won't divide that, where long division would. But since we only talk about synthetic division in here, that's all I'm going to show you. So let's go back to our original problem and let's talk about how do we divide this. So let me start with a clean sheet of paper. You've already got the problem written down, so don't worry about it. Okay, so here was our original problem. 2x to the third minus 5x squared minus 8x plus 15 over x minus 3. All right, so here we go. And when I get this answer, I'm going to put that answer in this box right here. Make sure you can see everything. Yes. Okay. All right, so I'm ready to divide it. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We'll come up under here, and let's do our division bar. All right, so draw the division bar. Now, what goes underneath here? The dividend. But here's what we're going to do. Instead of writing all of this down, we're only going to write the coefficients of every term all the way down to the constant. So we've got the coefficient here's 2, the coefficient here's -5, the coefficient here's -8, and then the constant is 15. So let's put those four numbers, 2, -5, -8, and 15. 2, -5, -8, and 15. Now, make sure you don't lose that negative. You don't have to put the plus in front of the 15. It's understood. But if any of these numbers is negative, you have to put the negatives. All right, now here's the whole kicker to every bit of this. Out front, right here, what we put in this spot right here, we're only going to put a single number, one number. And the number that you put out front, I can explain it a whole bunch of ways, but here's probably the easiest way without boring you with a whole bunch of mathematics. Is just simply this. Whatever is behind this x, right here, whatever's behind this x, take the opposite of that. So this is x minus 3. So right here, put a plus 3. And I said you don't have to put a plus in front of it. So just put a plus 3 right there. So let me bore you with a couple of repetition things. So if this is x minus 5 plus 5, x minus 1 plus 1, x minus 12 plus 12. But if it's x plus 4, negative 4, x plus 10, negative 10, x plus 23, negative 23. That's the only sign you take the opposite of. These comes from here. This comes from the opposite of what's behind that x. All right. Now, in synthetic division, we don't write anything up here. In synthetic division, your answer is below this line. All right, so here's what you do. Start out, whatever that first number is, and you bring it all the way below the line. So whatever this first number is right here will always be the first number in your answer, below the line. All right. Now, once you get this number here, cross multiply. 3 times 2 is 6, and then put it under here. So we don't put it up here. We just bring it down and say 3 times 2 is 6. Put that 6 under the next number, but above the line. Now, negative 5 plus 6, you add those, is 1. If you lose 5, but you win 6 back, you're up 1. Now, once you get that number below the line, cross multiply again. 3 times 1 is 3. And negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. Cross multiply again. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And 15 minus 15 is 0. The number that is on the end is always your remainder. And this answer right here is your quotient. So there's your quotient and there's your remainder. Now, when we go to put our answer back up here in this block, I don't want to write it like this. I need to write it out back with the x's in it. I took the x's out, but when you put the answer in, you got to put the x's back in. Now, what x's goes behind each of these numbers? Well, look at what we divided. you divided x3 by x1. Now, what does the dividing rule say with exponents? If you're dividing and the bases are the same, you keep the base and you subtract exponents. So if you take a x3 divided by x1, your answer will be a x2. So this right here will be a x2 behind it. 2x2 plus 1x1 minus 5. In other words, your answer will be in descending order. x2, x1, and then your constant. So your answer, the power on this first number, will always be 1 degree less than what's in your quotient. Always 1 degree less. So this is x2, x1, and then constant. Now I'll show you what to do in just a few minutes when there's a remainder. So that is this answer right here, 2x squared plus, and you don't have to put that 1x1, you can just write it x, minus 5. Now, let me show you something right quick. Do you remember a while ago how we said if you take your divisor times your quotient, you should get your dividend? All right, so let's do that. Let's take our divisor. Now, what was our divisor? It's this. What was our quotient? It was this right here. So if we take, and you don't have to write this down, if I take x minus 3 and multiply it by 2x squared plus x minus 5, if I multiply these two things together, I should get this right here, the dividend. Well, let's see if we do. We did this in the last section, or actually section 5.4, I believe is what it was. 5.3, I'm sorry, 5.3. All right, but let's multiply this together anyway. So this would be 2x cubed plus 1x squared minus 5x. Now come back and do the same thing with the negative 3. Negative 6x squared minus 3x plus 15. Now collect my like terms, 2x cubed. Combine the x squares together, minus 5x squared. Add the x's together is minus 8x. And then plus 15. And if you will look at that, you will see that that is the dividend. That's what we divided into. So if you divide this into this, you get that. And I just proved it by multiplying those two things together to get that. So that's dividing by synthetic division. So let's look at a few more problems now on dividing by synthetic division. All right, so let's look at this one. 5x to the third plus x squared minus x minus 8 divided by x plus 2. I will mention this again in just a minute. Make sure that when this polynomial is written, make sure it's in descending order. x3, x2, x1, and constant. Now, it would generally, the problems I give you, they will already be in descending order. But you need to also watch to see if there's any missing terms. I'll talk about what to do that in just a minute. But let's do one just for you to practice with. Let's do this one together. All right, so here we go. Start out, do the division bar. 5, 1, positive 1, negative 1, don't lose the negative, and then negative 8. All right, what number now will go out front? It's the opposite of that. Okay, here we go. Skip one line and draw a line. Bring this number down. First number always comes to your answer. Now, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Put that above the line. 1 minus 10 is negative 9. Negative 2 times negative 9 is positive 18. Negative 1 plus 18 is plus 17. And then negative 2 times 17 is negative 34. And negative, if you lose 8 and then you lose 34 more, you've lost 42. Now let's write our answer. Our answer will be 5x. Now, you're dividing an x3 by x1. So this is going to be an x2. And I told you your answer will always be 1 less than this power. So 5x2 minus 9x1 plus, and that's my constant right there. Now, what did we say the number on the end was? It's your remainder. If you have a remainder other than 0, here's the way you write it. You always put minus. Now, if that was a plus, I'd put a plus. So you have to have a sign there. And then you always put your remainder back over your divisor. Your remainder always goes over your divisor. Okay? Let's do another one. All right, let's do 2x4 minus x3 minus 7x2 plus 5x plus 6 over x minus 2. All right, start out, synthetic division. x4, x3, x2, x1, constant. So the top's in descending order. It has to be in descending order. So if these are not in descending order, you got to put it in descending order. So this is going to be 2, negative 1, don't lose the negative, negative 7, 5, and 6. Now the number that goes out front is a plus 2. Skip one line and draw a line. Bring the first number all the way down to your answer. Now cross multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 1 plus 4 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Negative 7 plus 6 is negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. 5 minus 2 would be 3. And then 2 times 3 is 6. And 6 plus 6 is 12. Now write in my answer. This will be 2x. Now what power do we start with? You're dividing an x1 into an x4. So this is going to be 2x3 plus 3x squared minus 1x plus 3. Then the number that's on the end is always your remainder, and we always put our remainder back over the divisor. Okay, 2 more examples here. This is what you have to watch out for in synthetic division. 2x3 minus x2 plus 4 over x minus 1. Okay, so let's do our division bar. Now, the number that goes out front is going to be a positive 1. Now, here's what makes this one different. Notice right here, this is x3, x2, and then a constant. So it's in descending order, but if you'll notice, there's a missing x in here. There's no x term. So what you have to do when you're writing these numbers out is you have to account for that missing term. So you must put a 0 in for that missing term. If you do not, your answer will be wrong. So you have to put a 0 for every missing term in this dividend. Now, once you put that 0 in, everything works the same. Bring the 2 down. 1 times 2 is 2. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. This answer will start out 2x. You're dividing an x3 by x1. So this is going to be 2x2 plus 1x to the first plus 1. The number on the end is always your remainder, and you always write your remainder over your divisor. But if you don't put that 0 in, you're not going to have enough numbers in the bottom to write out your answer to the problem. Okay, let's do, I want to do one more example with you. That will close out this section. So let's do x5 minus 3x2 plus 4x over x minus 2. So let's do this one last one. Okay, notice x5, x2, x1. So is it in descending order? Yes, but there's some gaps. x5, you're missing a x4, you're missing a x3. You have a x2, you have a x1, but you don't have a constant. So you're missing 3 terms, a x4, a x3, and a constant. Yes, you have to have a constant on the end up here. So that means you're going to have to put 3 zeros in this problem. So let's do our division bar. Underneath here, 1, because that's x5, 1x5. There's no x4. There's no x3. There is a x2. There is a x1, but there's no constant. So this problem right here, 1x5, no x4s, no x3s, negative 3x squared, plus 4x to the first, but there's no constant on the end. Now, the number out front, take the opposite of it. Now, everything else is the same. You just got to remember to put the zeros in. So bring the 1 down. 2 times 1 is 2. 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 0 plus 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 3 plus 8 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 4 plus 10 is 14. 2 times 14 is 28. 0 plus 28 is 28. That should be my remainder. All right, let's put our letters in. So this is going to be 1x to the 4th. Because you got an x5 divided by x1, so that's x4. Plus 2x3 plus 4x2 minus 5, no plus 5, plus 5x1, you don't have to put the 1, plus 14, and then the number on the end is always your remainder, and we always put our remainder over our divisor. So we've looked at 2 kinds of dividing in this section. One where we're dividing by a monomial, and another where we're dividing by either x plus or x minus a number. And in that case, I showed you how to divide it by using synthetic division. So that concludes section 6.4 altogether.